Have you ever wondered how the richest and most powerful people on Earth manage to stay on top, generation after generation, while the rest of us grind just to keep up? It's not just about money. It's not even just about connections. The real secret lies in something deeper, something invisible, and something chillingly effective: psychology. The 1% don't just control resources, they control perception. They understand how humans think, feel, respond, and obey. And they use that understanding like a toolkit to keep everyone else playing a rigged game they designed. So today, we're peeling back the curtain and exposing the 5 psychological tricks the 1% use to stay in power. These tactics aren't random. They're carefully crafted mechanisms of control that work across countries, cultures, and generations. Once you learn to spot them, you can begin to free yourself from their grasp. 1. Scarcity manipulation. Creating hunger in a world of plenty. At first glance, the world looks full of limitations. Limited jobs, limited housing, limited access to healthcare. But here's what the 1% don't want you to realize. Most scarcity is artificial. Take the housing market. Around the world, cities are filled with vacant luxury apartments, left empty, not because there's no one who needs them, but because owning empty property inflates its long-term value. Meanwhile, millions sleep in shelters or work 3 jobs to afford rent. The illusion of scarcity makes people fight for crumbs while the elite hoard the bakery. This trick is powerful because it activates your survival instinct. When you believe there's not enough to go around, you stop thinking collectively. You compete. You accept lower wages, you overwork, you stay silent. It becomes me versus you instead of us versus the rigged system. The elite know that people in survival mode are easier to control, so they keep essential resources just out of reach, not because they have to, but because it benefits them to make you feel desperate. 2. The aspiration trap, making you love what keeps you down. Why do we idolize billionaires? Why do people defend the ultra-rich even when they're suffering under systems the rich designed? The answer is another psychological masterstroke. Make people want to join you, not fight you. The 1% have learned that if they can sell a dream loud enough, people will not only chase it, they'll protect it. And that dream is wrapped in glossy packaging: money, freedom, fame, respect. Every time you scroll past a video of a private jet, a Bugatti with butterfly doors, a 19-year-old crypto millionaire sipping champagne on a yacht, you're being fed a fantasy. It's not just about wealth, it's about validation, comfort, control, power. The message whispered behind every luxury post is clear. This could be you if you just work hard enough. But here's the trap. Most of these outcomes are not accessible through hard work alone. They're built on generational wealth, access to insider knowledge, proximity to capital, and strategic loopholes. You can't grind your way into the upper echelon if the game is pay to play and you're paying in sweat, not leverage. Yet the illusion persists, and that's no accident. It's a tactic. Because aspiration pacifies revolt. As long as you're dreaming of joining the elite, you're less likely to question why the doors are locked. You're less likely to notice the economic rigging, the policies passed in the shadows, the exploitation normalized as ambition. You don't rage at the system, you defend it, because you still believe there's a seat at the table, even if you're currently eating crumbs. Even worse, this trap turns suffering into shame. If you're poor, struggling, overworked, you're made to feel like a failure. Not because the system failed you, but because you didn't hustle hard enough. That's the quiet cruelty of this trick. It makes people blame themselves instead of the hierarchy. The 1% have mastered the art of dressing exploitation as inspiration. They don't need to oppress you directly if they can get you to chase their approval voluntarily. And so we get lost in motivational quotes from billionaires who inherited their wealth, books about rising and grinding written by people who started at the top, and viral speeches from CEOs about resilience, while their companies cut staff and dodge taxes. It's not empowerment, it's psychological sedation, keeping you asleep with your eyes wide open. 3. Divide and distract. Turning the masses against themselves. When people are united, they're powerful. That's why the elite put so much energy into keeping us divided, by race, religion, gender, class, nationality, even age. Look closely, and you'll see it everywhere. Politicians pointing fingers at immigrants instead of billion-dollar corporations. Media outlets fueling cultural wars while ignoring wage stagnation. Social media algorithms favoring outrage and division because it's more profitable than unity. This isn't just chaos, it's engineered. The more people fight each other, the less they fight the system. It's an old trick. Keep the masses busy arguing over crumbs while the elite feast in peace. This division also acts as a smokescreen. While we debate who should use which bathroom, billionaires pass tax laws, privatize schools, and lobby for deregulation. While you're angry at your neighbor, they're quietly rewriting the rules in their favor. It's no accident. It's psychology. Divide, distract, and dominate. 4. Information framing. Controlling the story controls the mind. Information is power. That's why the 1% either own the media or influence it through advertising, board seats, and backroom deals. It's not about fake news, it's about framing. Consider how the media talks about crime. If a poor person steals, they're a criminal. If a rich person evades taxes, they're a savvy investor. If someone challenges the system, they're radical. If a billionaire buys a social platform, they're visionary. These aren't facts, they're frames. Education is framed the same way. You're taught the Industrial Revolution, but not about how Rockefeller shaped American education to produce obedient workers. You're taught democracy, but not about the billionaires behind campaign finance. You're told to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but not who owns the factory that makes the boots. Framing shapes belief. Belief shapes behavior. If you control the story, you control the people. And the elite write the story that keeps them on top. 5. Institutional capture. Making the system work for them alone. This is the trick that locks in all the others. It's not just that the rich have influence, it's that they've embedded themselves into the structure of power so deeply, they effectively run the show. This is called institutional capture. When regulatory bodies, lawmakers, courts, and even universities are influenced or controlled by the industries they're supposed to regulate. You see it in politics. Oil companies writing climate policy, pharmaceutical giants influencing the FDA, billionaire donors shaping Supreme Court appointments, Wall Street insiders leading the Treasury. At every level, the system is compromised. This trick works because it wraps exploitation in the appearance of legitimacy. You think you're living in a democracy, but your vote is worth pennies compared to a billionaire's PAC donation. You think there are checks and balances, but the checker is on the CEO's payroll. Once power captures institutions, it becomes almost impossible to challenge without systemic reform, and that's exactly how the 1% like it. So, what can you do? Here's the good news. Psychological tricks lose power when you become aware of them. The moment you name the game, you change the game. First, start with awareness. Recognize when scarcity is fake. Question why luxury is glorified. Ask who benefits when your feed is filled with conflict or envy. Notice how stories are told and who's left out. Second, build solidarity. The system thrives on division, so fight it with community. Talk to people outside your bubble. Organize. Share knowledge. Support movements that challenge institutional capture and fight for structural change. Third, protect your attention. Your mind is the battlefield. Limit your exposure to manipulative media. Curate your feed. Read books. Listen to long-form podcasts that challenge your views and expand your perspective. Lastly, stop worshiping the rich. Admire integrity, not excess. Celebrate generosity, not greed. Reject the myth that money equals worth. Once you stop playing by their values, their power begins to erode. Because here's the truth, the 1% may own the assets, but the 99% are the system. Without our labor, attention, and obedience, their house of cards collapses. They need you distracted, divided, and dreaming. But you don't have to play along. Knowledge is the first step. Action is the second. If this video made you think differently, don't just click away. Hit that like button so more people can see this message. Subscribe for more content that challenges the lies we've been sold about wealth, success, and power. And drop a comment below. Which of these psychological tricks have you seen in action? Let's start a conversation. Let's expose the system. And let's stop being pawns in a game we never agreed to play. Because once you understand the game, they can't play you anymore.